How did you, I mean, is there any suggestion or impression somewhere that some of those members will not be allowed to perform their functions?
If the basic infrastructure for election, which is the placement of the list, voters list, accreditation, the card reader, the forms, how long does it take to fill one of these forms, and who fills the forms, and at what point? And then they look at the rural area, you consider the literacy level of the citizens who are supposed to vote, and then you begin to, you must have to put it on table that this is going to be a very stressful election for Nigerians.
Well, INEC says that time and again they have meetings with political parties where they discuss some of these issues, perhaps the one of yesterday, case in point. So they would have thought that if any of the political parties have any questions or challenges or objections to any of those processes, they will make them known in one of those meetings.
But when you look at the timing, if issues were brought up yesterday, introduced to the political parties, what are the time that what's the timeline for the political parties to take this back to the field to further educate their supporters? This is the issue. It's not about the political parties now. It's about the voters. How would the voters who have been turning around, they go to this place to look for PVC, they come back, they can find their names on the list, some find their names not well spelled, and then, they'll be faced with new challenges, not being able to pass through the almighty quoted accreditation process or card reader. Now they have to deal with filling of the forms. Look at the literacy level of those in the rural area. What is the time between the time you start the accreditation and when the election will end? These are serious challenges, not just for the political parties, but to our supporters and voters.
What do you say about that particular time, from 8 a.m. till about 1 p.m.? That's the time INEC is giving for the accreditation to take place, while actual voting will start at about 1:30 p.m. Isn't that enough?
5 hours. You've been in Nigeria. We're not strangers to this, that in some cases the voting materials and the polling officers may not be there for 8 a.m. They may be there for 10. And if they come there for 10 o'clock, some of them 11 o'clock. Some will not show up until 12 o'clock. These are probabilities that must be, considered, so that you don't just fix a time and then at the end of the day, a lot of people were not able to allow to come to get in to vote, and then the processes are so cumbersome. If it were to be, you start by 8 o'clock and people identify their names, you give them the ballot papers. Since you have done, passed through the card reader, the next is for them to come and, drop their ballot papers. But this is a situation where you start 8 o'clock. You introduce a system, a process that is earlier to the voting public. And then you think that when you have 500 or 700 per unit, then you'll be able to finish it in 5 hours. Even when we use manual, we are not able to finish in some cases in 5 hours. I think we are just trying to experiment because we've been lured into this new electoral machinery. Otherwise, it would have taken time to properly test the timing, the running, the equipment, the reaction of the public, the behavioral, the different, cultural behaviors of Nigerians, the literacy level. All these things must be put on the table and tested them, run them.
Well, I think the literacy, allow me to come in here, Prof. The literacy level is very, very key because Professor Ezeh has told the nation that we'll have 3 color codes on election day. The red, that will signify the ballot box for the presidential election. I think the black for the senatorial and the green for the House of Representatives. How much of education has your party given to the electorate and its members on this?
Yeah, we have taken the education, the voter education to our voters and the supporters. However, the timing for the education for these processes to get into, for people to buy into it, is what we are looking at. whether you turn it into green or red or white is immaterial. People should know whom to vote for, and the process of voting must be known, to them. And then the colors, whatever, the process of the color then is now the duty of the party to say, look, on this you vote here. My concern is when you introduce so much sophistication into electoral process for a country that still have close to 40 to 50% illiteracy level, there are some parts of this country you don't even have the opportunity to educate these people. They are in there. You can't reach them unless on the election day. So what happened?
That looks like, a slap to political class, people in government over the years that have not been able to, educate the people to the extent that they will know the difference. But in this case, if you look at it critically, it will seem as if INEC has done or made this quite easy. According to Jega, I'll give you a quote here. He said, each ballot paper has corresponding color stripes to assist voters in putting the right ballot paper in the right ballot box. So in each one you're given, you have a corresponding color stripe that indicates where to put that particular ballot in. Isn't that, good enough?
It is good enough if you have the colors on the ballot boxes, not on the papers.
On both, on the paper to correspond with the box.
What we are saying is this is a process that has just been introduced for the purpose of this election. Let's go into it as a country, as a nation, with open mind. But we must take into consideration the level of literacy in our land. Let's not be, taken away, by other societies where things has gone. The operations, the facilities, the methodology has been adopted over years. We are just introducing this. And we are not going to expect miracles. It's going to take a while. It's going to take a process for our people to adapt into this. Remember, this is just 16 years of democracy in Nigeria. We started with ballot boxes, different kind of them, and then we are now on if you like, e-voting. That is what is because the card reader means e-voting. So by the time we go through it, let's see how it works.
Since
as a party, we are ready.
Just since this literacy level keeps popping up again and again, even though I'm about to ask you, I'm still going to ask you what you think of the methodology that has been introduced. Would you have advised that we use the option A4 used in 1993? At least it was very straightforward.
Yeah, we can go back now. But what I'm saying is that let's not expect miracles to happen. The option A4, A3, open ballot, secret ballot, they are all processes. But let's not keep changing. We start elections at the lower level to introduce new methods, new systems. Not at the top. You don't come from top to bottom. You go from bottom to top. And to a country like Nigeria, so vast, some of the terrains are terrible. That taking these processes of electronic voting or card reader, what about the disabled? What about the blind? Who shows them the colors? How do they decide the colors?